decided it's probably time to just make a damn game. Something I've wanted to do for a while. And so I know I can do it. Made a Pac-Man clone. Didn't quite finish it, but it was almost pixel perfect. The AI was almost exactly to the T of the Miss Pac-Man logic. But the one thing that I've been doing for a long time, for about 3-4 years almost, is watching a lot of game developer talks, postmortems, and indie devs talking about developing video games, as well as reading articles and things like that written by developers. I've seen a lot of people who came from the AAA space who in a team can complete a game with a given role, but when they try to complete a independent game, self-published, maybe 2 or 3 other people, they'll fail. And a lot of times they devote so much time and money and resources into a single game that if they do not succeed in launching that game, that's it. So if somebody with that much practical experience can fail at releasing a game, then that means that really anybody can. And if I take all the lessons that I've seen over these talks and videos and try to kind of compile all that into a single philosophy of development in order to get sort of my dream game out, then I think there's a chance, and I have an idea of how to do that. So there's been some great talks that I've seen, and I'll talk about 3 of them and some takeaways from it, and then kind of go over the plan that I have been developing for my own sort of recipe for hopefully releasing games and being successful at it. If I want to be successful at it, then how do I determine success? And that's where Jake Birkett's talk comes into play. And his talk overall is really worth watching. But one of the main things that he does, he's able to break down success by measurement. He offers a really simple solution for keeping track of success: hours worked and how much money you made per hour, by calculating that over the lifetime sales of a game. So a game that he released 1 year may have horrible sales, and after a few changes and adjustments and releasing on a different platform, over the lifetime of the game, it's technically a qualifier for success. And there's a talk from Jeff Vogel, and this one he goes over sort of a philosophy of where to spend your time, and one of the other takeaways from his talk was to reuse assets, essentially, to not, if you have a music track or something like that you've already paid royalties for, that works for another game, or you have artwork or something that works for another game, then just reuse those assets and don't be ashamed of it, because ultimately those all affect the bottom line and your margins and things like that, and how much money you make, and really determine whether or not it's something you can do as sort of a self-employed job or as a business. He made this point of, I've used the same icon for 11 different games, and I don't need to pay for an artist to make another icon, and I don't need to worry about that. It's a good icon, I'm going to use it. So he has a lot of practical and pragmatic advice. Next, there's a talk from Sam Coster of Butterscotch Games, and it's a really good talk. Not only for the content within it, but it's also kind of emotional roller coaster, and it's pretty gripping. But there's a few takeaways from that, and one of the main ones was the tech that they had developed for kind of growing a following between game releases, so that when they would release a new game, they didn't have to rebuild their audience from scratch. And it's almost as simple as integrating a mailing list into your menu system of your game, so that people can sign up for notifications and stuff like that outside of any platform that they're beholden to necessarily. So you get that really important email address to communicate directly to the fans with. Overall, he kind of just goes over a lot of scoping and rescoping that they had to do as he was himself battling cancer, and just the idea of completely throwing away genre conventions and things like that, in order to sort of cheat and move forward, but also make a game better, and to not be beholden to sort of the gaming tropes that exist within specific genres. Okay, so what's my plan? My plan is to try to release a game every 2 weeks. And every game that I make within this goal will be a step towards the big game, the one that I really wanted to do. So yeah, game every 2 weeks. Reusing assets. Building systems for getting amassing a following of players. I think I'm probably going to be transparent about the development process on YouTube, and then every time I get a game done, I'll build a little trailer and throw it out there, and then ultimately not being stuck by this idea of a 2-year game and having it be everything on the line for it, right? Instead, it's every 2 weeks, release on a platform, figure out the idiosyncrasies of doing that on that particular platform, what's the pitfalls and what are things to know about next time, and essentially just build a library of games and experience that the games themselves will transfer forward into the next one, mechanics and systems and tools that I develop as I go along, with the ultimate goal. All these games are going to be clones practically. The ultimate goal is to clone one of my all-time favorite games, which is Final Fantasy Tactics. And so that's the plan. Right now, making a Picross clone, and what does that have to do with tactics? Well, you work in a grid, and so you need to be able to move a cursor around on a grid, right? So step one, Picross is relatively simple, and so that's where I'm at. Take that, move that forward. Okay, now I've got a grid I can move a cursor around on. What's next? Well, I need to be able to move characters around on that grid, and so on and so forth. Top 3 concerns about pitfalls and where I'm going to find trouble along the way. So working in 3D, just something I haven't done before. It's basically trigonometry, but I haven't done it. So that kind of freaks me out, and there's just a lot of learning that I'm going to have to do with regards to that. So I'm going to have to ease into that. There's the leveling balance, which I think will be a major kind of hurdle to overcome. So I think I'll try to tackle that in a single game release. Some way of developing systems for balancing weapons and stats and things like that. And then the big one that sort of freaks me out the more I watch independent developers talk about it is AI. There's one person I've been watching on YouTube, ThoughtQuake, and he's making a cargo defense on Godot, and watched all of his devlog videos up until now, and I'll keep watching them because they're so good. And I do feel like his experience in programming is far exceeds mine, but watching him sort of tackle a lot of the same things that I'll probably end up having to deal with a tactical grid-based game, and freaks me out a little bit, I'm gonna be totally honest. For now, I'll be uploading videos showing some progress and some just probably a lot of random stuff talking about Godot, which is the platform that I'll be developing on for the foreseeable future. So anyways, that's what's going on, and hopefully you see more of this very shortly. One other thing I forgot to mention was I'll have links below for all the talks that I was referring to, so that if you're interested, you can watch them. So, see you around next time.